wind bites hard against their cheeks as the first rays of sun slip over the jagged edge of the frozen horizon. Snow crunches under worn leather soles, brittle as scorched sugar. A line of figures stirs to life beneath mammoth hide shelters, rising like ghosts from the frost. Their breath plumes into the air, brief clouds of warmth in a world that offers little else. This isn't the Ice Age postcard you might imagine. There are no friendly snowmen here unless you count a very suspicious pile of mammoth dung. The temperature hovers low enough to freeze your eyelids shut if you blink too long. And this morning? It's hunt day. They are a small group, 10 adults and 2 older children, their faces painted with charcoal and ochre, symbols passed down like whispered spells. Today they follow giants. Not just any giants, mammoths and steppe bison, creatures whose mere footprints could pool with rain like small lakes. But first, before we dive headfirst into this frozen trail of danger and survival, do me a quick favor. So before you enjoy the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when people are tuning in from. Now, turn up the volume, and together let's begin today's journey of exploration. The first tracker squats beside a trail, fingers brushing snow-crusted ground. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. The track in front of him is unmistakable, a shallow depression 3 times the width of a man's foot, the edges softened by wind but still clean enough to read. It's Mammoth. Recent. No more than 4 hours old. Behind him, a hunter tightens the leather straps on his spear thrower. A young girl, barely old enough to have lost her first tooth, points toward a patch of snapped brush. Even the children learn early. In this world, survival isn't just for adults. It's a community project. You know, the prehistoric version of bring your kid to work day. Except here, the work might end with something 10 times your size stepping on your face. As the sun lifts higher, the light spills gold across a ridge dusted with ice. The hunters move carefully, whispering less than the wind. They know they're not just following, they're being watched too. Apex predators, including saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, sometimes tail the same herds for an easier kill. And sometimes those same predators tail the humans for a much easier kill. But there's no turning back now. Last night's fire was the last of the dried birch bark. They need fat. They need meat. And they need it before the cold pulls the strength from their bones and turns their limbs into little frozen drumsticks. One tracker spots something curious, a cluster of broken branches stripped clean of bark. Mammoths don't just walk through terrain, they redecorate it. Like massive bulldozers, they clear saplings, push through frozen brush, and leave behind destruction so obvious that even a time-traveling toddler could shout, they went that way. But here's the trick, mammoths don't walk in straight lines. They meander. They circle back. They test wind patterns. If you're a bad tracker, you'll be walking in figure eights by dusk and crying by morning. The good ones, like these, read more than the footprints. They read the rhythm. One man tastes the air. Yes, tastes it. His tongue flicks out like a lizard's. He's gauging for scent. Dung, sweat, musk, blood. A faint note of ammonia rides the air. Not much, but enough. That's fresh. Maybe a bull-in must pass this way. Agitated and leaking hormones like some kind of prehistoric cologne had gone wrong. Better steer clear of him. Here's your historically accurate fact. Tracking wasn't just about footprints. Prehistoric hunters used wind direction, temperature shifts, animal behavior, even birdsong patterns to build a mental map of where their prey moved. This knowledge wasn't instinct, it was taught, practiced, remembered. And now for a strange but true detail, some tribes would carry listening stones, small, flat rocks pressed to the ground to amplify distant herd sounds through vibration. It's a bit like placing your ear on train tracks, except what's coming isn't a train, it's a 10-ton elephant with a wool sweater and bad attitude. The group crests a ridge. Below, the valley opens wide, rimmed by blue-shadowed firs and ringed in fog. A line of dark smudges moves slowly across the far side. The herd. Maybe a dozen mammoths, trudging through snow that reaches up past their knees. One small calf sticks close to its mother, its trunk swinging like a nervous child clinging to a parent's hand. They watch in silence, calculating. The terrain slopes gently downward, a bad place for an ambush. Too open. No cover. The bison trails, though, those head toward a narrowing gully. Better chances there. But they'll keep watching. Patience is their second weapon after flint. A few younger hunters break off, circling wide to gather information. They'll watch for movement, test the depth of snow drifts, and scout possible ambush sites. The rest remain still, crouched beneath spruce boughs heavy with snow, listening to the wind tell stories only they know how to hear. At dusk, the cold begins its assault again. Fingers stiffen. Noses run. Spirits begin to sink. But one tracker smiles as he crouches beside a fresh pile of steaming dung, an indicator that the herd is bedding down nearby. He stands, turns to the others, and lifts 2 fingers. 2 hours. That's the time they have before the mammoths rise again and continue their journey. 2 hours to sleep, sharpen their weapons, and finalize a plan that, let's face it, might get them killed. But this is what they do. What they've always done. What they must do to live. Tomorrow, they will follow the titans into deeper cold, into terrain soaked with risk and reward. But tonight, beneath the endless black of an ice age sky, they rest, coiled like arrows drawn halfway back. The hunt has begun. A thin crust of ice crackles under each footstep as dawn stretches pale fingers across the valley floor. The hunters rise stiffly, joints sore from sleeping on stone and frozen dirt. But there's no time for groaning, only listening. The world is quiet, eerily so. Somewhere out there, less than a league away, mammoths are on the move again. But to find them now, the group must rely on more than vision. The landscape, once again, becomes a giant open book, and each hunter is a reader fluent in a language modern eyes have long forgotten. At the center of this process is their best tracker, a man with eyes like flint and the patience of a glacier. He kneels low, inspecting the snow, not just looking at footprints but reading their shape. The depth tells him how much the animal weighed. The melt pattern reveals how recently it passed. Even the toe splay, the way the front edges of the foot pressed outwards, tells him whether the mammoth was walking calmly or on alert. It's not magic. It's muscle memory, inherited wisdom, and obsession sharpened by hunger. These men and women aren't just looking for animals, they're interpreting signs like scholars. Except instead of dusty scrolls, their texts are in dung piles and bent grass. Here's where things get weird. One of the women stoops over a clump of snow and brings it to her nose. She takes a deep sniff, then licks it. No, she's not insane. She's tasting for salt and ammonia, signs of mammoth urine, fresh, warm, unmistakably recent. Gross? Yes. Useful? Extremely. It tells her how far ahead the herd is and whether they're anxious or relaxed. Relaxed herds mean slower movement, which means a better shot at closing the distance. That's your strange but true detail for this section. Prehistoric trackers often use taste and smell to confirm the age and stress levels of their prey, something not commonly romanticized in documentaries, but absolutely critical for survival. They keep moving. Around them, the terrain begins to change. The open snowfield tightens into a choke point framed by broken ridges and scattered pines. The ground is uneven, pocked with frozen puddles and brush-snagged trails. One of the children gestures toward a clawed-up tree. Not mammoth, not bison, possibly cave bear, probably from weeks ago. Still, it sets nerves on edge. Now comes the real art, following not one set of prints, but the entire story of movement. A flattened patch of reeds by a stream indicates where one of the mammoths stopped to drink. A circle of churned snow marks where the young calf lay down to rest, its smaller, sharper toe marks pressed delicately into the crust. There's even a place where one mammoth must have paused and dragged its tusks through the snow. The long furrows glisten with frost. The trackers don't just record this, they debate it. Was the tusk drag a sign of agitation? A dominance display? Or was the animal merely tired? A heated exchange follows. Quiet but intense. This moment matters. If the herd feels threatened, they'll change direction, possibly toward higher ground, where hunting is much harder. So the decision is made, move faster, split briefly into two teams to flank both sides of the valley. That's the risk. Divide your group and you have your firepower. But if you're too slow, you lose your prey. It's the Ice Age equivalent of choosing whether to take the shortcut through the sketchy alley or walk the long, safe route and miss your appointment. Only in this case, the appointment is a mammoth's ribcage. Here comes your historically accurate fact. Ancient trackers could determine the age, gender, and even social status of animals from their tracks. Larger males left broader prints, while dominant ones sometimes walked slightly ahead of the herd. The spacing between prints indicated pace, and pace, of course, revealed mood. Back on the trail, the scouts report something unexpected. The mammoths have veered slightly, toward a patch of wind-sheltered pine and a small icy pond. The team suspects the matriarch is guiding the herd to familiar wintering grounds, a place where shelter and water are consistent. That's both good and bad. Good because they can anticipate the route. Bad because it means the herd might hunker down for days, making them harder to flush out into a trap. The group regathers at a natural overlook. Below, they see it clearly. A trampled path curving around a gully and disappearing into thicker forest. A single trail, wide as a wagon road, sunken under the weight of multiple megaton bodies. They settle in to watch. Not act, not chase. Watch. And here's where prehistoric tracking blurs into something deeper, patience as strategy. These hunters know that chasing the herd directly rarely works. The real power lies in understanding the route, the rhythm, the behavior of the herd. They draw crude sketches in the snow, planning ambush positions. One of them imitates the trumpet call of a distressed calf, softly, experimentally. Another checks wind direction by watching how smoke from a smoldering twig curls upward. Suddenly, there's movement, far off but visible through the trees. A mammoth appears, distant but massive, its silhouette strange against the shifting blue-white backdrop. It pauses, lifting its trunk, sniffing the air. A heartbeat later, it's gone, but the tracker smiles. That brief pause, that lift of the trunk, it means the herd doesn't smell danger yet. They're moving cautiously, yes, but not running. The plan will hold. As dusk paints the sky in swirls of violet and coal, the group descends from their perch to prepare the next phase. They collect dry grass to light fires, They check the tension in their sinew-bound spears. They whisper to each other in tight, urgent phrases. Tomorrow will bring them closer, and perhaps, if the mammoths remain unaware, within striking distance. Snow begins to fall again. Not thick and blinding, but in soft curtains that mute the world. The ground becomes a chalkboard wiped clean, erasing tracks and cues the hunters worked so hard to follow. Still, they press forward, hunched against the cold, hearts hammering not from fear, but from the tension of what comes next. They've chosen their ground. A narrow ravine bordered by fallen trees and jagged boulders. On one side, a rise of stone, perfect for concealment. On the other, a sloped patch of dry brush and brittle grass, ideal for fire. The hunters fan out with practiced calm. Every one of them has a role, from the spear throwers to the children assigned to mimic distress calls or chase fires at the right moment. This is not chaos. This is choreography. And the dancers weigh 6 tons. The goal isn't just to kill, it's to funnel. To use terrain, wind, sound, and fire to coax the herd where they want it. Through the narrowest part of the valley, where escape becomes difficult and panic becomes an ally. They begin by igniting small fires, not to burn the herd, but to create walls. Animals instinctively avoid smoke. Flames flicker along the edges of the brush, guided by damp earth to prevent runaway wildfire. The children are stationed with branches to control the blaze. And if you think letting kids play with fire sounds reckless, welcome to prehistoric parenting. No helmets, no hand sanitizer, just trust and hope. The hunters crouch low behind their cover, armed with spears tipped in obsidian and bone. Some of the spears are longer than a man is tall, designed to strike from afar using the otlotl, a throwing stick that turns arm strength into terrifying range. Others hold shorter spears with fire-hardened tips, for the brave few who will stand closer when the moment comes. Then they wait and wait. An hour passes. Then 2. Then movement. The matriarch appears first, her towering frame parting the forest like a ghost ship through fog. Her ears fan wide, trunk swaying gently. Behind her, a shaggy procession of younger mammoths and cows. The calf is there too, tripping on its own feet, bundled in wool like a walking haystack. But then a problem. The herd pauses. The lead mammoth lifts her head again. This time, she smells something. Not fire. Not the wind. Them. The hunters go still, breaths held like glass about to shatter. For one heart-stopping moment, the matriarch turns. If she bolts, the whole herd will follow, and the trap collapses. All that work, all that silence, all that planning, blown away like smoke in a storm. Then, she continues, not out of trust, out of momentum. The herd is mid-migration. The instinct to keep moving is stronger than caution. They push forward. Now the hunters act. A young man sprints toward the fires, waving a burning branch to expand the wall of smoke. Another shouts from behind a rock, mimicking the yowl of a predator. The herd begins to compress, shifting toward the center of the valley. Exactly as planned. But mammoths don't panic quietly. The matriarch bellows, a trumpet so loud it makes birds flee trees half a mile away. The ground trembles. The calf trips. The entire herd surges forward, and just like that, the ambush is on. Spears fly. Some hit. Some don't. One glances off a mammoth's flank, causing it to wheel sideways. Another sinks deep into the haunch of a younger cow. Blood steams against the snow. The fire drives them forward, narrowing their path. One of the hunters nearly gets trampled. His cloak catches on a broken branch, and he rolls free with a scream that's 1 part fear, 1 part triumph. Here's your light joke break. You haven't truly known fear until you've been lying on your back in the ice age with 6 tons of mammoth but cheeks coming at your face. We're talking prehistoric pancake levels of danger. The chaos lasts only minutes. But in those minutes, every muscle, every nerve, every choice matters. They manage to isolate one, a mid-sized cow separated in the frenzy. She's wounded, stumbling. The hunters close in, but she doesn't give in. With a deafening cry, she wheels around, tusks flashing like ivory sabers. One of the hunters, a wiry man with a jagged scar across his cheek, gets too close. The mammoth swipes with her trunk, slamming him into a tree. He doesn't get up. Another swings his spear, aiming for the chest. It strikes true. The mammoth stumbles again, legs buckling. Then a second spear, a third. She collapses with a great sigh, legs folding beneath her like a crumbling monument. Silence returns. Only the hiss of fire and the slow, fading groans of the dying creature remain. The rest of the herd has vanished, their thunderous retreat echoing through the valley. The snow drinks up the sound. The cold rushes in to fill the space where death has just passed. Here's your historically accurate fact. Early humans didn't waste a single part of a mammoth. Meat, fat, bone, hide, sinew, tusk. Everything had a purpose. The kill wasn't just about survival, it was about sustainability. And your strange but true detail. Archaeologists have found sites where mammoth bones were arranged into structures, suggesting not just use as tents or windbreaks, but possibly ritual significance. Imagine living in a house made of bones, and not because it's Halloween, but because it's home. The hunters gather around the fallen mammoth. Some whisper thanks. Others touch the steaming hide. The children stay back, watching in awe. For them, this is more than a kill. It's proof that their people still rule this valley, that their tools, their teachings still work, that in a world built for giants, they are not prey. Not today. The storm begins to pick up again, swirling snow over the tracks, erasing evidence of the battle. But the hunters don't need reminders. The weight of their survival is already etched in muscle and bone, and now mammoth meat. They will eat tonight. They will remember tomorrow. And the titans? They will return. The wind has changed again. No longer the whispering kind, but sharp, hurried, and unpredictable. Like a predator that's had a taste and now wants more. Snow slants sideways, peppering the hunters' cloaks as they leave the mammoth site behind. They move in silence, dragging sleds heavy with fat and meat, faces taut with exhaustion. A fire has burned behind their eyes since the kill, but it's not the only hunger driving them now. They are still tracking. The mammoths have fled, yes, but the bison have not. This land isn't ruled by a single giant. It's a coliseum of colossi, and while mammoths walk like kings, step bison charge like berserkers. Shorter than mammoths but still enormous. These creatures move in tightly knit herds, twitchy and fast, horns lowered like they're always halfway through a grudge match. And most importantly, they're predictable. Mammoths wander, but bison follow migration routes like clockwork. The hunters shift gears. They know of a narrow ravine up north, a place known in whispers as the Cliff of Bones. A natural death trap. Generations before, their elders drove a panicked herd of bison off that cliff, their bodies shattering on the rocks below. The bones are still there, poking up from the snow like ghostly fingers. If the winds hold, if the herd passes through the lower plains by dusk, they can reach it in time. But the danger? Oh, it's real. If mammoths are like moving mountains, bison are rolling thunder. When a stampede begins, you don't run against it. You become a smudge, a stain, a very flat historical footnote. Still they go. By noon, the first signs appear. Tracks, dozens of them. Fresh, deep, some smeared with mud where the ice has begun to thaw. Then scat, warm and grassy. Then the smell, dank, earthy, urgent. The herd is close. They scout ahead. On the other side of a rocky bluff, they find them. 100 bison, heads low, legs stomping snow into slush. Calves huddle near mothers. Bull males bark and jostle at the edge. Their breath fogs in the cold air like war horns. The hunters don't charge. They retreat, strategically, mind you, to circle wide around the herd and position themselves near the cliff. The trap depends on precision. A misstep, and they'll miss the slope entirely. Or worse, the bison will turn into the hunters, and the stampede will become a slaughter of the wrong species. The plan is simple on paper. Create panic, block the escape path, and funnel the herd toward the narrow drop. But have you ever tried to scare 100 tank-shaped animals without becoming their personal punching bag? Yeah. Welcome to prehistoric problem solving. They begin by lighting small fires behind the herd, carefully spaced, just enough smoke to irritate, not overwhelm. Then the youngest runners begin making noise, high-pitched whistles, yips and whoops. Not human language, not bison either, something in between. It's not meant to sound real, it's meant to sound wrong. The bison stir, then snort, then move, not fast at first, more like anxious pacing. One bull stamps the ground repeatedly. Another swings his horns into empty air. The herd presses tighter. Tension ripples like a wave across their shoulders. Then it happens. Calf bleats. A bull charges blindly. The rest follow. A stampede. The ground shakes. Trees tremble. Rocks shift. The air thickens with thunder and fear. The hunters leap to safety behind the ridge, watching as the entire herd, caught in a frenzy of instinct, barrels forward exactly where they hoped, toward the cliff. Not all of them fall, but many do. It is not graceful. It is not glorious. It is terrifying. The bison at the front try to stop, but the momentum of the herd behind crushes them forward. Hoofs scrape, bodies collide, and with a roar of displaced air and snow, they go over. A cascade of muscle and bone, then silence, then a long, echoing series of dull, final impacts. The hunters emerge slowly, some pale, some awestruck. The snow near the edge of the cliff is painted in chaos. Tracks gouged into the ground, fur caught on stone, hoofprints like shattered bowls. They descend the slope carefully, avoiding patches of red ice. At the bottom lies the aftermath. Bison piled like driftwood, some already still, some moaning. The final mercy is swift. Spears find their marks quickly. It's not pretty, but it's clean. The strange paradox of Ice Age survival is this: death is both savage and sacred. These animals are not trophies, they are lifelines. Every ounce of meat will be stripped, every hide tanned, every horn carved into tools or offerings. Even the hooves and brains are useful, and the bones, they will stay. That's your strange but true detail. Archaeologists have found bone cliffs where layers of skeletons mark dozens of mass kills, stacked atop each other like pages in a bloody history book. These sites weren't just traps, they were traditions, and your historically accurate fact. Steppe bison once numbered in the millions across Eurasia and North America, and were hunted with coordinated drives involving dozens of people, signaling systems, and an uncanny understanding of herd behavior. As night falls, the hunters light fires near the base of the cliff. Smoke rises into the clear sky. They sit quietly now, blood on their hands, but calm in their bones. The work of survival is done for now. A child plays with a rib the size of her arm, dragging it in the snow like a toy sword. An elder places his hand on the skull of the largest bull and whispers a few words in a language older than memory. A ritual of thanks. A recognition that in this world, life eats life but not without reverence. Above them, the stars emerge, cold and bright, and somewhere in the night, wolves begin to howl. Not in mourning, but in anticipation. After all, they've been tracking the titans too. The cold is less brutal now. Or perhaps the tribe has simply grown numb to it. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. After all, they have survived a week of tracking beasts that could crush them without noticing, of planning hunts with margins so thin a single misstep could have spelled extinction. Now they walk slowly, burdened not just with sleds laden with meat and bone, but with memory. Behind them lie the remains of titans, the mammoth they brought down with fire and stone, the bison herd driven to ruin at the cliff's edge. Ahead lies their winter camp, hidden among trees like a secret the forest agreed to keep. Smoke curls gently above the treetops before the camp even comes into view. Others have remained behind, tending fires, mending clothes, watching over the very young and very old. When the hunters arrive, they are greeted without fanfare, just nods, hands outstretched to lift the burdens. The Ice Age is not a place for parades. The meat is hung quickly, stored in pits cut deep into the frozen earth. The fat is boiled. Tools are fashioned from tendon and ivory. Even the mammoth's stomach is turned into a watertight sack, a detail that would be hilariously grotesque if it weren't so impressively useful. And let's be honest, what prehistoric inventor first looked at a steaming internal organ and said, I could store soup in this? The camp is a different world. There is laughter here. Children play with bones, acting out hunts in miniature. One wears a piece of mammoth hide like a superhero cape. The elders carve tiny animals from bison horn, giving them as toys or talismans. Stories begin to form. Embellishments. In one, the mammoth rears up and speaks in a thunderous voice before it dies. In another, the hunters were invisible, shadows gifted by the forest. This is how history is born, not in stone tablets or museums, but in campfire lies told with love. But the weight of what's been done still lingers. One of the hunters, quiet, scarred, the one who narrowly escaped the mammoth's charge, sits apart from the rest. He's carving a long spiral into a piece of tusk. Not decoration, not boredom, counting. It's his fifth, maybe sixth such carving. Notches marking the major hunts of his life. Or perhaps the deaths. The line is blurry out here. Let's pause here for your historically accurate fact. Archaeologists have found engraved mammoth ivory pieces dating back over 20,000 years, often with notches, spirals, or animal figures. Some may have served as calendars, others as stories, our earliest attempts to say, this happened. I was here. Remember it. Now for your strange but true detail. In some Ice Age graves, people were buried with specific animal bones arranged beside them, like the rib of a mammoth laid across the chest, or the skull of a bison facing their feet. These weren't random choices. They meant something. Maybe status. Maybe thanks. Maybe warning. The line between sacred and practical didn't exist back then. It was all the same thread. Back at camp, the tribe gathers around the fire. This is the part of the hunt modern eyes rarely imagine, the after. The firelight flickers across faces that carry the weight of knowledge too old for language. They sit shoulder to shoulder, chewing dried meat, passing gourds of fermented berry drink that makes everyone a little braver, a little louder. The storyteller begins. No script, no edits, just voice and memory. He speaks of the mammoth's breath turning to steam, of the fire lines that danced like spirits, of the bison's panic and the roaring silence that followed. He exaggerates, of course. The mammoth becomes twice its size. The hunter who fell becomes a hero who rode the beast briefly. The calf becomes a talking prophet. The jokes come too, especially about the near-trampled hunter. Next time, just ask to join the herd. Everyone laughs. Even him, because humor is a shield, a salve. Even when your world is held together by sinew and hope, it helps to laugh about the moment you almost became mammoth jelly. As the fire dies down, the storyteller's voice lowers. He tells of the footprints, the ones they followed, and the ones they've left behind. And that's what this was always about. Tracking isn't just a way to find food. It's a philosophy, a language, an inheritance. When they follow the prince of the giants, they're not just chasing meat, they're walking the same paths their ancestors walked. And when they press their own feet into the snow, they become part of that same trail. A thread that connects one ice age to the next, one fire circle to the next, one heartbeat to the next. Outside the firelight, wolves watch, not attacking, just waiting. They too follow the trail, the leftovers, the rhythm. There's a silent understanding between predator and prey, between hunter and scavenger, that stretches back further than anyone can remember. Eventually, the tribe sleeps. The night wraps them in its long arms. The titans are gone, for now. Their bones scattered, their spirits, if such things exist, dancing somewhere just outside the edges of the firelight. But tomorrow, or next moon, or in another season, the trail will begin again. Another set of tracks, another hunt. Because in this world, the earth does not belong to those who build cities or tame rivers. It belongs to those who know how to follow the footprints, and the ones who leave their own,